Hello everyone. Sorry that I've been away from the camera because, of course, in true style, technology has been a pain. Welcome to Espagnole and Frites, otherwise known as chips and gravy. Now, I've done a lot of the prep already because there's no point me standing here and weighing out everything. So I can basically get a start on doing the last little bits and pieces of chopping. So today we're doing an Espagnole, which is one of the five French mother sauces. And this is by far one of my favorite, because who doesn't like a nice foolproof gravy? And this is got to be one of the tastiest gravies out there. So with any major base, we have a mirepoix going into this, which consists of onion, carrot, celery. And it's basically the basis of any great soup base, stock base, anything. These three vegetables are the goodness and the taste behind so many dishes. So I like to prepare by cutting everything ahead of time. This is also known as mise en place. Everything in its place. It just makes everything so much easier when you go to execute each of the steps that you need to do when you go to cook. So nice, decent dice. Don't want to go too small. Otherwise your vegetables will simply disappear when we are simmering the Espagnole for a good 45 minutes. And then a little bit extra when we go to boil it down even further to make a demi-glaze or any other type of gravy that you want to create. You want to be very careful chopping, and especially when I'm doing it on camera. So I can't get to the computer, but where are our followers from at this point in time? I can see I'm going to need to get a bowl to put everything in. Otherwise, I'm just going to have a mass of diced vegetables on my board. Nowhere to put them. And any of the viewers, have you made an Espagnole before? Okay. Time to get some bowls. Make a bit of room. Because ordinarily I wouldn't have all of the ingredients on the board, but I need everything accessible for me at this point in time. If you're just joining, we're making Espagnole and frites. So chips and gravy, basically. Real comfort food. I would have some music on in the background. However, the last time I did a live and I had music going on in the background, it was marked copyright. So then the reach just doesn't get out there. So it was better just to basically do it in silence and talk to the viewers. Now you can choose to peel the carrots. It doesn't really matter. This is all going to be passed through a fine sieve to take the solids away from the liquid at the end of the cook. So you don't need to worry about it. The one thing you do need to do is make sure that it is clean. You're going to want to make sure that you scrub down your vegetables just to make sure that you don't have any sand and any dirt on them. And if you're lucky enough to get your vegetables from a grocer, that's brilliant, but you certainly want to pay close attention if you are getting them from a grocery store, because you never know what pesticides have been used. Okay, if you've just joined, making an Espagnole sauce, which is basically the beginnings of a gravy, and we're going to make chips and gravy while we're live. And I'm just getting a mirepoix ready. I would have to say that it's hard. It's one of the 5 French mother sauces, and if you were to ask me which one is my favorite, they've all got a special place for my palate. Espagnole is a foolproof gravy and tasty beef stock, whereas, oh, my peppercorn's going flying. I do love a hollandaise, which is obviously synonymous with vegetables, roast vegetables, and in the West, a eggs Benedict. Who doesn't love eggs Benedict with some fresh hollandaise? And a bechamel is fantastic. It's a fantastic white sauce that I put onto my spaghetti bolognese, but you would use it as a layer in a lasagna. And all of these recipes are available on www.sliverandbite.com or right here on YouTube. You can click on the Sliver and Bite TV tab, subscribe, and have a look through all of my recipes and the real-time cooking tutorials. And who has the time to sit there and watch anywhere between 15 and 40 minutes worth of a tutorial? Well, I have news for you. You can watch just a sliver, which is anywhere between a minute and a half to a 3.5 minute video tutorial with me narrating, but very quickly, the method of the recipe. And then there is bite size, which allows you to look at a very quick snapshot of the recipe and, you know, see if you like it. Then you can watch the real-time cooking tutorial or head to the website and just follow the text method. But everything is there for you, and I am creating as often as I can. If I had it my way, I would do a recipe a day. However, at this point in time, it's not so lucrative. So I need to continue with my day job and then do this on the side. But hopefully, with your help, you'll be able to subscribe and look through all my recipes and enjoy Sliver and Bites offerings. Okay, so nearing the end of preparing the mirepoix for our Espagnole. And certainly trying not to harm myself while I'm preparing. I've got here in Australia, we've got something called a fogo bin, which is all of our greens go into a separate bin. Let me show you. This is the fogo bin. So all of our greens go in there and it goes into a separate bin so it doesn't go to landfill, which is fantastic because obviously it breaks down much better than the plastics and everything else that goes into it. So I did a quick weigh of the onions beforehand, but what I'll do is get the scale out just to double check I have enough, because of course the onion is one of the major ingredients that provides so much of the taste. As I'm saying it, that's incorrect, because even the celery provides a taste that you wouldn't really realize. And that was evident when I first tried celery seed. It was amazing, especially in a coleslaw dressing. Honestly, phenomenal. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's get the scale out. And go off to the side. This on there. And we need 2 regular size onions. Just getting my recipe up, because there is a lot of recipes to remember here. Let's go there. Espagnole. Okay, we're going to work on grams here. So with our onion, we need 420. Cool, I've got 472 here. But some of the butt of the onion will end up going, so it is a-okay. Let's go this way. Now, one of the things that you learn at culinary school, which is, oh my gosh, don't even tell me what year that was. I can't even remember what year I was at culinary school. You never learn. You never forget how to cut an onion. That's for damn sure. Certainly not cutting it near as roughly as Julia Child. However, it gets the job done. I've cut a bit too much of the butt off, so it's starting to slip out. However, you can always just cut roughly at the end, because remember, we are passing this through a sieve, so it'll be okay. Doesn't need to be perfect. And that's one of the great things about the Espagnole sauce. Unlike a bechamel or a hollandaise, even the velouté, is you can go in quite rough with your ingredients and your technique. You don't really need a lot of technique when it comes to the Espagnole, unlike, making sure you're whisking really fast for a hollandaise and a bechamel, because you'll end up having the sauce seizing. I know you all didn't come here for a lesson in how to chop vegetables. However, if I'd done all the prep before you came, I think that would be rather boring, and I wouldn't have enough airtime just to talk about everything Espagnole. I think I'm not going to go with my slice down the center. Seems to be weakening the onion just a little too much. So you'll have to let me know if you plan on creating the Espagnole. I always had trouble, even when I would make a roast. The gravy always eluded me. It was just such a letdown. But now, knowing how to make the Espagnole, it is gravy on steroids, and honestly, you won't look back. If you had the time, you would be doing an Espagnole every night, providing you're having a meal that warrants having a gravy. Now, some of the other sauces that I've neglected to talk about, velouté, which is basically a chicken gravy. That's a really tasty chicken gravy as well. Great for pork and basically white meat. I say white meat, however, fish is great with the hollandaise. And also tomate. Very versatile sauce. I might get rid of this bit. The tomate is great to make marinara, tomato soup, spaghetti bolognese. Absolutely amazing. Okay, we are getting close to putting all of this into the pot. This is tightly wrapped. Good job, nature. Oh my gosh. Let's try this one. Because it's got a stalk, at least I can get my fingers in there. When it comes to garlic cloves, bigger the better. Means you don't need to chop as much. That's a nice one. And of course it makes a lot of mess. Now look, you can get the garlic out of a jar. And look, it's fine. It's just, it's not the best. And how engaged do you want to be with your food? Engaged at all? Because doing everything from scratch carries a sense of accomplishment. And who doesn't like that? Now, I like my paring knife for this. You get to scrape it down. Oh, there's an upset dog somewhere. It's Friday evening here in Australia, so people are probably heading out to hit the town. But I am here cooking with you. Wouldn't have it any other way. Cooking, true passion. Love it. And the more I learn, the more in love I feel I'm becoming. Whilst I did a year of culinary school before I went into hospitality, a lot of it is self-taught now because I learnt the basics and some of the favourite things that I like to cook. But obviously got an opportunity to go into front of house hospitality, so I never finished cooking. So now that I've been 3 years out of a corporate job, it is all about cooking and creating. And there's nothing better than getting the base of a recipe correct and then altering it to make it your own. And that's a great way to approach cooking. You don't need to follow everything to the T with my recipes, because there is enough leeway to enhance it yourself. Okay, just on camera. Washing the garlic. Now, you might think that there is a lot of the ingredients here. I'm actually doubling it because I just find that one serving, which is the recipe online is for Espagnole, is 2 cups. So I'm basically making 4 cups because you just can't get enough. And it's not just simply being poured over a steak. It is going over some frites, some chips. So now you might feel the need to dice this further. It is unnecessary because it's actually not going in to be cooked at the initial part of the recipe. It is going to be added once we add the beef stock. So no need to mince it, because what you stand to do is actually release more of the juice of the garlic, and then you lose so much of the taste. Okay, we are ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to put this on 100 degrees Celsius. Then we're adding our butter. So in the recipe, it calls for only 50 grams. I have 100 grams going into this one. And we're going to melt this down. And I like to have a bit of taste with it, so I'm going to slightly brown the butter. And then we're not putting the full mirepoix into this. We are only going to be putting in the onion, and the carrot. And I've measured out the beef stock already, which is just here. And that needs to be brought to a simmer just to put a bit of warmth through it so you don't seize the flour, which you'll see once we add that into our heavy base pot. Again, we're just at 100 degrees Celsius. Just remove these knives out of the way. Now remember, you want to lightly brown this, you don't want to burn it. Burning the butter will put a taste through your Espagnole sauce that you won't be able to recover from. So lightly browning, and if you're worried, you can turn it from 100 degrees down to 80, 90. So to bring the beef stock up to a light simmer, ordinarily you would be putting in 6 cups, which is roughly 1,366 grams. But of course, like I said, I'm doubling this Espagnole recipe. So let's bring that over. So yeah, just shy of 3 litres of beef stock. I'm going to go and put this on behind me. Fortunate enough to have plenty of cooking space in this kitchen. As you can see, I'm not sure if you can see, it's starting to brown. And the reason why it's browning is because of the milk solids that are in the butter. Otherwise, we would be cooking with ghee. Okay, we're going in with our onion, and our carrots at this stage. And we are sauteing this for 8 minutes. You'll You'll see there was a big piece of onion there. Remember, it doesn't matter. This is all being passed through a sieve later on. So let's put a timer on for 8 minutes. At 100. And make sure you are mixing. You don't want to burn at the bottom and then not have the top cooked at all. This is releasing the flavours, the onion and the carrot. You can see they're shedding a bit more light on the subject here because we have just hit dusk. Just quickly typing because obviously I can't be at my computer and cook at the same time. To all that have been stayed or gone. Thank you for joining me. Okay. To any new viewers, thanks for stopping by. We're making an Espagnole, which is one of the 5 French mother sauces. And we're making a gravy, essentially. And I will be putting that over some frites, French for chips, a little later on. And those people that are watching, where are you from? So I just had someone ask about what you can actually use Espagnole for. In its form, once it has just recently boiled down and is Espagnole sauce, it is great for soups, stews, risottos, basically to enhance any meal that is of a red meat base. And then you can use the Espagnole to further reduce down to make a jus with anything. You've heard of red wine jus. So you're adding some red wine, you're adding some bay leaves and some peppercorns and a bocagani, which is basically a little bouquet of garnish that you want to get more of the flavour and the notes of the dish you're going to put it on into, and then you would use a little bit of twine to make a bocagani, and it boils along with it, and then you take it out and you reduce it down. I guess one of the most popular ones is the gravy that you create, a demi-glaze for steaks. So we've got 2 more minutes with sautéing the carrots and the onion. And I've got my beef stock coming to a light simmer behind me. And if you want to find out more information on this or any other of the 5 French mother sauces, you can head to sliverandbite.com and have a look through the May Take a While tab, and that will take you to the 5 French mother sauces and Espagnole, and there's some suggestions there on what you can use it for. Next we will be putting in the flour over this mixture, and we've got a minute left. I wish I could tell you the smell, describe the smell. But hey, get the ingredients and make it yourself, and then you'll be able to smell it. Next up, we are the flour. Acts as a thickener, but also grabs onto any of the juice that is in the pot or is going to be introduced into the pot, and we'll brown it down, and this will allow it to also enhance the taste. Okay. We are going in with the plain flour, lightly over the top, and of course it looks like a lot because I've doubled the recipe. And then we mix that. At this point, the Espagnole sauce, or the beginnings of it, this will go brown now because the flour will start to brown on the bottom. And now, next step after this is the adding in our beef stock. Again, you don't want to leave this too long, otherwise you will end up simply burning it. You don't want to burn it. We are cooking a Espagnole sauce. For those that are just joining us, we're making an Espagnole sauce, a gravy, and one of the 5 French mother sauces. Now, with the flour, you don't need to have this on for a great deal. Run for 5 minutes, roughly. I haven't set a timer, but let's set a timer now for, let's go 2 minutes. I'm sure I've been waffling for for longer than that. Espagnole sauce for those that are just joining us. So I've cut up my mirepoix. So far, put in the butter, melted that down, slightly browned it. Then I've added in the onion and the carrot, sauteed that for 8 minutes. Once that has sauteed, I have sprinkled over the plain flour and now sauteing this for a further 5 minutes. And I've got a minute left. And as you can see, turning that over, it depends if you can see it that clearly. But it's starting to brown, which is okay. We don't like things to burn. We do like things to caramelize. Caramelization, that enhances the flavor. Okay, 45. I've got a nice steam coming off of the beef stock that's warming behind me. For those that are joining me, we're making an Espagnole sauce, a gravy, one of the 5 French mother sauces. Okay. This next step, when we add in our beef stock, we will be whisking, because as soon as we add a great deal of liquid to this Espagnole sauce, the flour that we had just sprinkled over will start to thicken, basically immediately. So we want to make sure we're able to mix that quick enough so it doesn't create thick clumps. So you can see there, starting to brown a little bit, which is fine. Call that caramelization for our Espagnole. Okay. Let's make a bit of space here, ready for me to pour in the beef stock. Now I'm going to do it on the side so we don't. I'm just going to put in a quarter of it and mix that through. Just to mix up the flour. Now I can go in with the rest of the beef stock. And then continue mixing that so we don't get any clots. If you're just joining, we're making an Espagnole sauce, one of the 5 French mother sauces. One of my favorites. And this is a double batch. I'm going to leave that at 100 degrees Celsius. Now we are adding in the rest of our mirepoix, which is our celery, our peppercorns, our bay leaves, and our garlic. Let's get a knife to get all of that up in one go. And submerge this. It's always a good idea to remember the amount of bay leaves you put in, because when you go to retrieve them out later on, you want to remember how many you've got, which is another foolproof step, is you're passing it through a sieve, remember? And then lastly, our tomato puree. Now, one thing you've got to remember is you can never get every little bit of the sauce out. So, always account for 3 grams over, just to make sure you've got enough in there, what the recipe calls for. Let's get rid of that. Nice stir here. So now we put the lid on this and it simmers for 45 minutes. We can move away from the whisk now, and we can simply use a wooden spoon. And we're reducing this by half. This Espagnole sauce, which is one of the 5 French mother sauces. Make sure you're getting everything off the bottom of your pot, because of course we had the flour there before and we don't want that to burn while this is on simmering for 45 minutes. Okay. On. Now that Espagnole sauce, got to remember to put a 45 minutes. But what I'm going to do is let's go halfway. Let's go 20 minutes to double check the level, because once it steams off a third, the last little bit, it goes really quickly, and you want to make sure you're stirring it more often. Okay, now that our Espagnole sauce is being boiled down, we are going to get started with our frites. So our potato chips, our French fries, our oven chips, however you want to do it, however you want to say it, that's what we're cooking. Basically, we're going to do a nice simple chips and gravy, Espagnole and frites. I'm just going to put some of these dishes in the scullery. just washed out the pot that I used to boil the beef stock in. What I'm going to do is fill this with some water, because once we clean, cut and soak our potatoes, we're going to boil them before we put them in a hot oven. And make sure you leave enough room for the potatoes to go in. So let's get that into a boil. Let's just double check this. We're starting to get a simmer now. Might bring that up to 120, just to get a bit more of a wriggle on. And I am going to disappear off screen and wash these brushed potatoes. So we want a potato with a high starch quality. So I'm just going to wash these off. Because they have plenty of sand on them, and we do not want to chip a tooth because we've got sand. You can peel them, it's not really necessary. Those that are joining, we are making Espagnole, which is now simmering down, one of the 5 French mother sauces, and chips. I'm just washing the potatoes. And for those that have just joined us, you can get this recipe and so many more on sliverandbite.com. So, to prevent the potatoes from going brown, we will put them in some water. So that they don't turn brown once we're in the middle of chopping. And I've got 1 kilo of potatoes here to make our chips. Now, I'm not sure whether I want to do some French fries or just oven chips. I'd like to do both, but that's a lot more effort. So let's do oven chips, because it's a bit easier to handle as well. So roughly this size for our potato chips. If we were going French fries, we would go cut another time on that one. So they're not quite wedges. Wedges are basically twice the size of what I'm cutting. These chips will cook relatively fast. And cooking chips, so easy. You've got your choice of flavorings that you can put on, but also There's no fillers and preservatives and whatnot that go into your standard freezer chips. And these are just as good, if not better. You want to cut, obviously, lengthways to have a long chip, as long as you can. And we're just putting them in this water so that they don't go brown. This is a nice one. Let's go. I don't think I've got a big enough bowl here for a kilo worth of potatoes. Might, after this potato, have a look. Look at that. Perfect chip. Let's reduce that down. We want to simmer for our Espagnole. We don't want a rolling boil. We want to release as much of the flavour out of this mirepoix as we can, and the bay leaves and the peppercorns. For those that have just joined, we're making chips and gravy, Espagnole and frites. It's more of a wedge, that one. If you think somebody else would enjoy this live, send them the link. Send them on through. Subscribe. Come and join the party. I'm going to rinse these off because they're full of starch. Freshen the water up. This is starting to boil over. Let's get a bit more air in there. And I've got that at 60 degrees Celsius. Might just leave the lid ajar at this point. Those that are watching, thank you first of all, and let me know where you're tuning in from. can see, my bowl is far too small. It's a bit of a runt. So I'm just going to wash these off. Okay. Our potatoes are nice and clean. What I am going to do is move the Espagnole over to the cooktop behind me, clean up a little bit, and then put our water for our frites. On here. Let's put that on 120. Get this to a rolling boil. Knives. Welcome to the new viewers. We're making chips and gravy, but we're doing it from scratch. We're making an Espagnole and frites. Espagnole is on behind me. The potato chips we've cut up into our chosen size, and we're about to blanch them, and we're going to blanch them in some vinegar. We're going to get a slotted spoon for this one. I'm just checking the Espagnole. Make sure we give that a stir. It's taking a while. We'll put the lid on that. Stop the heat from escaping. So my timer for 20 minutes, just to double check on the Espagnole, is about up, because we don't want it to reduce too quickly. here. Nice, we're almost at a rolling boil. Sorry about all the noise. I've just turned on the live to see what's going on, and it's quite noisy. Let's go here. Now that we've got a rolling boil for our chips, we can add in our vinegar. And before we do that, I'm just double checking the Espagnole sauce behind me. Make sure we're giving that a good stir. Remember, all of these recipes available on sliverandbite.com. Okay. Now we are rolling boil. We can go in with our vinegar. Reduce that down to a dull raw. Vinegar in. And then we're going to put our fries in, and we're going to, our chips. Well, once we've got these in, we are going to blanch these slightly more than a blanch, but they're going in for 6 minutes. Of course, the temperature of the chips are lowering the temperature of the water. So we will increase that just a little bit. Once all the chips are in, give that a quick stir. And then we are in with a timer for 6 minutes. And the reason we're putting the gravy in is to create that crisp on the chip. So I'm turning on the oven, and we're going to put that on 200 degrees. And remember, we've got a lot going on. We've got the chips on in front of us, and we've got the Espagnole behind us. And then we're going to get a tea towel or two, and we're going to place the tea towel out to dry the chips before they go into a 200-degree oven. You want to make sure you don't overdo the chips. They'll just turn into mashed potato. And it's all apart from the beef stock, basically a vegetarian dish, so I don't have any meat that's been on my board. Let's go in with a bigger tea towel. Clean up a bit here. There. And in my little ramekin here, I've got white pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. Because we're putting gravy, the Espagnole, over the top, we're not going to go with a rough cut of fresh herbs because it'll be lost with the taste of the Espagnole anyway. So we are better off just sticking with our onion, garlic, pepper. And once we have the chips out drying, I'll be able to return the Espagnole back to the camera so we can actually see what's going on. Those that have joined, we're making chips and gravy, but we're doing it all from scratch. Espagnole and Frites. Make sure you're hitting subscribe so you never miss a live or a new recipe. And we're just blanching these for 6 minutes. So we're 2 minutes left on the chips, and then we're going to lay out on a tea towel to evaporate the moisture, and this will make a nice crispy chip. Thanks to those that have liked and subscribed and checked out the website. Means more than you know to me, sliverandbite.com. It is most definitely a labour of love at this point in time. I'm going to get a colander ready to drain. And of course, I'm not going to drain it on the tea towel. Okay, that is off. And let's place the colander in. Safety first, make sure you're protecting your fingers. Okay, that's off. Let's just let them suspend for the moment. Had a couple of loose ones fly off. Once we drain majority of the water off these chips, can watch out for the seasonings be put out. And this can go into the scullery. We're just going to spread these out, evaporate any of that heat and that moisture off, and then they're going to go into a 200-degree oven. So those that have just joined us, we are making chips and gravy, but we're making it from scratch. Okay, we're going to bring this back. And this is our Espagnole, which is our gravy. So you can see it's starting to slightly thicken. Leave that slightly ajar. Bring that up to 100 degrees. And there's no hard and fast rule for the chips and how long you have them sitting here. Basically, until they stop steaming, and then you'll be fine. Just checking on our Espagnole. So we're at about 30 minutes that we've had our lid on. Might leave it more so ajar now because we want to start evaporating some of that moisture off of it. Chips, they've just about stopped steaming. So you can actually see that they've gone a bit limp, which is fantastic because you don't want to cook them too much when you're boiling. But once we put them into the oven, we don't want to have to cook them for too long because they're still too crispy inside. And off to the side, I have already prepared my roasting pan with a area over the top of it, because what we can do then is cook the chips from top and bottom, so we're not having the oil stick to them and they're not essentially roasting, because we're not making roast vegetables, we're making chips. And then I've got my bowl, my large bowl, because the chips will go into the bowl. Then we will lightly drizzle some olive oil over it and then add our seasonings. The smell of this Espagnole sauce, next level. It's absolutely amazing. For those people that have stuck around, thank you very much. I appreciate it more than you know. Make sure you go and check out my website, sliverandbite.com. And for those that are joining us, we're making chips and gravy, but we're doing it 100% from scratch. These are just about done. These are, the steam has stopped, and if you're seeing that steam, that's from the Espagnole. So we can lift these up. I'm not going to put all of them in here because I won't have enough space to flip them around. So we'll just do half of the amount. Makes it a bit easier. And then I can put these on a separate tray. I reckon we could go for a few more. Another handful. Yeah. Okay, like I said, olive oil. We just want to lightly coat them. Because we want our seasoning to stick to them. I'm going to mix around this seasoning because I won't put it all on because, of course, I didn't put all of the chips in this one bowl. So here we've got onion powder, white pepper, garlic powder. So just mixing that to combine. And just tossing that around. And an explosion of chips. And at this stage, if you were not putting gravy all over them, you might be putting in your fresh cut herbs at this stage. Okay. Remember, we're in a deep roasting pan with a drying rack on top. Then we are putting the chips on top. And then spacing them out so that they've got room to cook, room to breathe. Makes them cook a lot more evenly. And if there's too many, just do up another tray and drying wrap. And you can rest them across each other. It's just when they're sticking together like this, then they won't cook properly. So you just want to be able to have the air, the hot air go through them. Okay. That's good to go into the oven. It's at 200 degrees Celsius. And we're on a road chip. Let's double check this Espagnole. So I reckon we've gone down about ½ an inch. So I'm going to take this lid off to start allowing all of that moisture to start evaporating off and reducing. I'm going to use the back of a cake spatula, reverse, and this will allow me to get rid of some of that scum, but that's all taste right there off the edges, because we want that to not simply stick to the edge, we want it to boil into the actual mixture. Those that are joining us, we're making chips and gravy, Espagnole and frites, but we're doing it from scratch. You've just missed the homemade chips. They're in the oven now at 200 degrees. And now we're at the final stages of boiling down our Espagnole, our gravy. Might turn that up a little bit. You can see how thick it's getting now. I'm impressed with my phone battery because I've been on for an hour and a half and I'm at 50%. So I could still talk for another hour and a half. Not that I will, because we're not too far from finishing. Thanks to everyone that has commented. I appreciate you tuning in. And a little trick that I've learnt it's been a year that I've been creating cooking videos now and blogging. When you have a camera directly above something that is steaming, you end up losing, obviously, the visual. So, when I was in corporate and we had Chris, our Secret Santa, our Chris Kringle, somebody got me a little fan. And it's so good because it blows the steam away from the camera while I'm cooking. It's absolutely perfect. Because people will attest to the fact that I've gotten so lightheaded sometimes because I'm sitting there blowing the steam out of the way. Honestly. The things you learn and what you do to get the shot, basically. Welcome to those people that are just joining us. We're making chips and gravy, also known as Espagnole and Frites. This is our Espagnole. It is one of the 5 French mother sauces. And that, I'm actually just bringing the temperature up on the oven to 220 for our chips. And I've just upped the Espagnole to 140 degrees Celsius because we can afford to have a bit more of an aggressive boil on this now. And I'm going to do a bit more cleaning while I'm here talking about the 5 French mother sauces. I've got a recap on the Sliver and Bite YouTube channel about the 5 French mother sauces, and I have a website, sliverandbite.com, that has a lot of information about the 5 French mother sauces as well. This is the Espagnole. There is also probably, I would say, the most popular, actually it's a tie for number 1, I think. We are bechamel, which is the white sauce, and we are also, that's tied with hollandaise. Very universal sauces that can basically be drizzled over anything. And we have the velouté, which is a chicken gravy and then grate to go into soups, stews, and grate to reduce down and put on a chicken schnitzel or on the top of a chicken Kiev, which is another recipe that I've recently just done and posted on sliverandbite.com. We also have the tomate, which is amazing for any of your tomato dishes. So your bolognese sauce, you then can turn that into a lasagna, and tomato soup. You can have rissoles. There's a lot of information on sliverandbite.com, and it'd be a massive help to the website to pump its views up. I've also got a tab on the website which is handy kitchen tips and tricks, because you can never have enough help in the kitchen. And the one that I posted today was about bringing ingredients to room temperature, and basically you're putting it in a bain-marie. If you have a sink that you can submerge your ramekins in, your eggs, Greek yogurt, sour cream, butter, milk. You just put that in a bath of hot, warm water, and it'll bring it to your room temperature, which is approximately 21 degrees Celsius. And it makes it much easier to mix these ingredients into your baking, basically. But who's also gotten home in the middle of winter wanted to make a sandwich, but your butter is absolutely rock hard. Submerge it in some water. Perfect. I'm going to up this a little bit more to continue reducing. The Espagnole has dipped down, I would say, a good inch now. So I started with the lid on to really make sure that we were infusing all of the tastes together for our Espagnole, and now removing it to actually reduce it down to a gravy and a stock. Our chips are in the oven. And we're getting there. We are most definitely getting there. I didn't put any salt and pepper on the chips that I put into the oven, but what I'll do is, in a few minutes, take them out, drizzle a little more olive oil over the top of them, and then put some flake salt on them. Because doing that to begin with and then putting them into the bowl and roughing them up, it's simply going to fall off anyway. So you're better off doing that at a later stage. You can really see that that Espagnole is getting much thicker now. And off to the side, we have, I've got a 4-cup Pyrex bowl, which is great to use something that is tempered glass because you are putting a scalding hot liquid into it. And a fine mesh sieve that will catch all of the larger stock vegetables. And again, scooping the slurry off the side, because that's all nice tasting stuff for our Espagnole. And then using the spatula to scrape the bottom of the pot as well, just to make sure we've got everything we can coming off into the actual stock. Actually, can get rid of the wooden spoon now. Put the rest of the dishes in the scullery, which scullery is really building up with all of the dirty dishes. I wish I could do a camera in camera to see the amount of steam that is being blown off the top of the Espagnole. It's quite funny. I am going to kitchen. Let's see. I'm going to turn that center island light off just because it's casting a bit of a line on the top of it, so you can't really see it all that well. So still quite loose, the actual liquid. It is thickening. However, we want that to go much thicker than what it is. Arrange the lights here a little bit more so that you can see it a lot clearer. I would zoom in, however, I'd have to take the mobile phone off of the holder. We don't want to do that, so I still need to show you what I'm doing with the chips. So we'll remove that for now. I'm going to get the chips out of the oven just to double check on them. They're sizzling away quite nicely. Shut that. I'm going to drizzle with a bit more olive oil, and then with our salt just over the top. That will, majority will stick. A lot of it will go underneath as well. And that is just the way it goes. And then back into the oven. Make sure you're using the safety precautions so you don't burn yourself. Those that are just joining, we are making potato chips, essentially, and gravy, but all from scratch. And this is an Espagnole, which we're going to reduce down to a gravy, and we've got fresh chips in the oven. And those that have stayed the whole time, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let's start a poll. How about that? Chips and gravy. Who's into it? Who's going to be our first voter? And for those people that have just joined, we're making Espagnole, a gravy, and I have chips, frites, in the oven at the moment. So we're making homemade chips and gravy. Now, as a recap, for the Espagnole, we had our mirepoix, which is carrot, celery, and onion, diced, and we've got garlic, we've got bay leaves in there, along with whole peppercorns. And the main stock is beef, a beef broth, a beef stock. And we basically put in our butter, slightly brown that, caramelize it, add in our onions and our carrot, saute for 8 minutes. We put over a light dusting of flour, mix that, saute for 5 minutes, add in our warmed beef stock, and we put in the rest of the mirepoix, which is the celery, the onion, sorry, not the onion. We put the celery, garlic, peppercorns, and bay leaves in and boil away. Reduce it down to a gravy. I've upped this again to boil it a little more aggressively now. And you can see it is getting thicker. And what helps thicken it not only is reducing the moisture, but it's the flour that we put on as well. And once we pass this through a sieve, we put it back onto the heat and reduce it down a little bit more. And at that stage, you can add in other ingredients so that you can customize it to the steak that you're going to eat, the roast that you're going to put it on. So if you were going to have a roast lamb, you would put some mint and some rosemary into it. Some additional peppercorns. And you can tie that all together and make a bouquet garni. And thank you to all those people that have subscribed to the Sliver and Bite channel. Muchly appreciated. And those that have gone and visited sliverandbite.com, really appreciate it. And for those people that have stuck around throughout the whole video, appreciate it more than you know. We're starting to get a bit of splash here now. Another really lovely gravy you can make out of this is a mushroom gravy, peppercorn gravy. Like I'd said, a red wine jus. Such a versatile base to alter the taste. So all of those people that are watching right now, have you subscribed? If so, thank you so much. For anyone that hasn't and is enjoying my lovely voice, please subscribe. It'll help me further my food blogging career. And you'll learn some pretty nifty recipes as well. And people enjoying the live? Is it helpful? Does it flow nicely? I know that there's cooking something from scratch, of course, takes time, and I could certainly have done, here's something that I've prepared earlier. But hey, let's baby steps for Sliver and Bite. But let's have a look at some stats. I've had an average of 5 concurrent viewers, only 4 likes, but I've had 585 people tune in, and an average view time of 1 minute. So thank you to those people that have stuck around. And we're coming to the end of our chips and gravy, our Espagnole and frites. So like, subscribe, visit the website. Go and visit the website for more additional information on the 5 French mother sauces. It is so worth knowing how to cook them. They're such a versatile group of sauces that you can use on every dish. And there's a nice informative breakdown on the 5 French mother sauces here on YouTube. You can have a look at as well. But we're making chips and gravy, people, so stick around. But if you are going to swipe on by, I would come back in about 10 minutes. We'll start seeing some action. The chips are looking nice and crispy, and sooner rather than later I'm about to get rid of the vegetables from this Espagnole, pass it through the sieve, and then return some of it back to reduce down to make the gravy. So those that are watching, chips and gravy, yes or no? Participate in the poll and let me know if it is something that you like. We're getting there. We're getting slower bubbles, so we're definitely thickening up. I also have a business podcast. It certainly has been a hot minute since I've posted on my Sliver and Bite TV podcast, but it's all about my journey in corporate and the the downfalls of management basically, and just how shocking they can be, and just a few home truths on how to conduct yourself as a manager. So check the podcast out on all major platforms. Those that are joining us, we're making an Espagnole sauce, which is a gravy from French mother sauces. Chips are looking fantastic. They're almost time to turn off, otherwise I'm going to burn them. And this Espagnole, I would say, is done now. You don't want to reduce it too much, because if you reduce it too much, you're unable to alter it when you go to reduce it into a gravy further down the track. So, we are going to put this, let's put it there because I want you to be able to see me do it. What I might do, instead of pouring it in, is ladle it across, because it'll just make a whole heap of mess otherwise. So this is the Espagnole going into a fine mesh sieve to separate the solids from the liquids. And I made a double batch, and that should make 4 cups. And then it's amazing how much comes out when you continue to shake it off. So this is an Espagnole sauce. Putting that into my recyclable bin. Those that are joining, we're making an Espagnole sauce, a gravy. And we're going to reduce that down into the gravy and then pour that over some homemade chips. And you can find out all of these recipes on sliverandbite.com or right here on YouTube. And of course, I'm on every other platform as well. It's a lot quieter now with everything off. We're starting to be full. So what I'll do is use what I have here and return. We'll put this behind me because we want to keep this party going. we're putting the Espagnole. And you can see the thickness of that gravy. It's actually not as hot as I thought it would be. So I can put so we're going to put that to 60 at the moment. We don't want to overdo it. At this end, you can use the spatula to move this around to get as much as you can out. And then it's amazing how much sauce is connected to the sieve. So I'm going to do, this is clean at the moment, swipe it across, and it's amazing how much comes out. You don't want to push down too hard because you don't want to clog up the sieve holes. Welcome to those that are just joining us. We are making chips and gravy. Might just have enough room left in here. Better check on those chips. We don't want them to burn. Let's turn this up because we want to have this come to a bit of a simmer. And you definitely need to be vigilant with the gravy because we just want a nice steady simmer at this point. Let's remove this for now. Because we want to make sure we're not burning this at all. Let that run off. Got it at 100 at this point in time. Probably need to reduce it down. I'm turning the chips off, but I'm opening the door because there was still a little bit of steam coming out. We don't want the chips to go soft. Reduce this down to 60 degrees. Those that are joining, we're making chips and gravy. And we're nearing the end now. Chips are due to come out in a moment. I'm just keeping an eye on this Espagnole sauce while I thicken it up. If you end up getting a little frustrated and it's taking too long to reduce, you could put a slurry of water and corn flour in to thicken it up. However, it's not necessary. You just need a bit of patience to reduce this down. Get rid of some of the water content. And that's basically all we're doing. I've got my little fan to get rid of as much of the steam as I can because you're not able to see what I'm doing. It's not really helping though. It smells amazing. This Espagnole sauce is honestly just such a simple gravy. You can do it at the start of the week and have it sitting in the fridge, pour some out into a pot, reduce it down, you've got a gravy. Ready to go. Do the hard work and meal prep ahead of time, and you're good to go. Okay, down to 60, just so that simmers ever so lightly. We're bringing our chips out, which are nice and crispy. You hear that? That's crispy chips. We're going to put them into a bowl. Doing your own chips, so easy and so much healthier for you. We are so close to the finish line, guys. Hopefully those people that swiped on past are coming back soon. I think we'll leave it at that for now. Gravy is thickening up very nicely. More salt. See how thick that is compared to when it was all together. This is looking absolutely divine. And the spatula is so good to cook with because it absolutely wipes the bottom of the pan, the pot. You can see me swiping that away. And it's so good because it includes all of the ingredients. Okay. You can just run that off. Perfect. And what I'll do is for a bit of fun, we'll put that into a jug so that we can take the phone down and get the pour. So we've got our homemade chips. We've got our gravy just finishing up, thickening. We could thicken a bit longer, but let's get this gravy into the jug. And once you've got it in your gravy boat or your jug, it basically thickens almost immediately. Because it's not in the direct heat. Okay. Let's wipe this down just a little bit so I can move this out of the way. Because I'm going to bring you down. So we've got our Espagnole, and we've got our homemade gravy and our chips, which are absolute perfection. And we are pouring our gravy over the chips. Now that's the money shot. Perfect. That's exactly what you want. Oh yes. Now, I can't convey to you the depth of flavor that is happening right now. It is amazing. The Espagnole reduced down to a gravy, and that is just the Espagnole. I've not even added anything to it to enhance the taste. But here we go. Here's our chips and gravy, and it is absolutely divine. So thank you everyone for joining me for Espagnole and Frites, chips and gravy, made from scratch. Make sure you subscribe. Go and have a look at the other videos. Check out sliverandbite.com for all your recipe needs. And we'll see you soon.